Hello everyone, I am Dr. Neelab Agrawal and today I am going to teach you hydatid cyst or echinococcal cyst. Hydatid, it is a term that stands for dewdrop in Latin and watery vesicle in Greek. Now we'll see the etiology. The most common causing organism for this is Echinococcus granulosus, that is also referred to as the dog tapeworm. The other species include Echinococcus multilocularis, Echinococcus vogeli, Echinococcus oligarthus. The important thing about Echinococcus multilocularis is it causes malignant hyalinosis, which is a misnomer because it is a benign disease characterized by multiple small cysts in both lobes of liver. Now coming on to the life cycle of Echinococcus. The Echinococcus comes from dogs. It may enter sheep or humans. Then in humans it enters duodenum, it enters into the bloodstream, from where it goes into the liver, and finally it forms the hydatid cyst. So dogs are basically the definitive hosts of this Echinococcus. Sheep is the intermediate host in which it normally goes. Humans are the accidental intermediate host or the end host, because in humans the tapeworm do not develop. Only the hydatid cysts develop. So the ova enters from dogs via fecal-oral route into humans. In duodenum, the oncosphere with hooklets are released into the blood. From blood, it may also reach lungs, but the most common it enters into the liver. In liver, the larval stage develops into the hydatid cyst. Here, the soleus develops. Normally, the soleus in dog develops into an adult tapeworm, but in humans, they can only form the new hydatid cysts. Now, we'll see the layers of this hydatid cyst one by one. So first of all, the most outermost layer is called as the pericyst. That is derived from the host tissues. It is basically a fibrous capsule. Next is green one is the ectocyst. It is the outer gelatinous layer of the hydatid cyst. The red one is the endocyst. That is basically the germinal layer from which the soleus develop. Inside you can see the hydatid fluid that contains the brood capsules and the scoleus. The brood capsules are basically small intracystic cellular masses in which the future worm develops into scoleus. These brood capsules together with scoleus are also called as hydatid sand. So now we'll see in figure, this is the brood capsule. It forms the scoleus, which finally develop into the daughter cysts. Coming on to the clinical features, it is almost equal in males and females. The average age is 45 years. Most commonly, the right lobe of liver is involved, and the most common segment involved is the segment 7. 75% of these cysts are solitary. It is mostly asymptomatic, but when the symptoms develop, the most common symptom is abdominal pain. Some also develop dyspnea and vomiting. Most common sign we see is hepatomegaly. Some patients may also experience jaundice and fever. Now the complications. Most common complication is the rupture of cyst into the biliary tree. That may result into two things: either a fatal anaphylactic shock, or it may also cause obstructive jaundice due to the obstruction by daughter cysts. Next complication can be rupture into the pleural cavity, which may lead to empyema and for which ICD has to be done. There is a very interesting Camelot's sign. Whenever this cyst involves the biliary tree, the gas enters the cyst and it causes partial collapse of the cyst wall. This is called as Camelot's sign. Coming on to the diagnosis part, most mainstay of diagnosis is by ultrasound and CT. On ultrasound, we can see well circumscribed cyst plus free floating hyperechoic hydatid sand. We can also see a rosette sign when the daughter cysts are present within the main hydatid cyst. Some people also describe to it as crumble deck appearance. On CT, we generally find a ring-like calcification. Now we'll see the films. In this first film, we can see a hyperechoic sand within the cyst. In the second film, we can see a rosette sign with multiple daughter cysts inside the main cyst. In the third C film, we can see a cyst with amorphous mass that may be semi-solid or solid appearance. In the fourth, we can see calcified cyst with eggshell appearance. These are the CT films. In the first film, we can see the floating layer of germinal epithelium within the cyst. In the second CT film, we can see multiple septations in the cyst. Now, coming on to the serological investigations. There are some serological investigations like ELISA, ARC5 and Immunoblot that have a very high sensitivity. The eosinophilia is also present in the blood investigation. Cassony's test, which was done previously, is now obsolete. It is an intradermal test using the phenomena of complement fixation. It is associated with anaphylaxis and has a sensitivity of only about 60%. Now, ERCP is the gold standard investigation when jaundice is present due to biliary involvement. Coming on to the various classifications of hydrated cyst. First is the Gabi classification that was described in 1981, that is based on ultrasound. So there are 5 types described in the Gabi classification. We'll see each one of these. So we'll make a diagram of cyst for each one of these so that we can understand it better. Now the first cyst is basically having a simple fluid collection like this. In the second cyst, we can see a floating layer of germinal epithelium, type 2. In type 3, we can see multiple septate that also has a honeycombing appearance. In type 4, we can see an amorphous mass that is complex heterogeneous mass comprising of solid plus cystic areas. In type 5, we can see a calcified wall that is basically a dead cyst. Now, the current classification that is described is the WHO IWGE classification that was described in 2001. IWGE stands for Informal Working Group on Echinococcus. So, it has 6 classes basically: CL, CL1, CE1, CE2, CE3 is divided into A and B, CE4 and CE5. So, CL stands for unilocular anechoic cyst with no cyst wall. CE1 has all the features of CL plus the cyst wall is present with a double line sign. We don't need to get into the details of these signs. CE2 stands for multiseptate, rosette-like or honeycombing cyst. 3A stands for detached membrane within the cyst that also has a water lily sign. 3B, when the daughter cysts are present in the solid matrix. 4, when heterogeneous hyper or hypoechoic contents are present with no daughter cyst. 5, with solid cyst with calcified wall. So 1 and 2 are the active cyst, 3 is the transitional cyst, 4 and 5 are the inactive cysts. Gabi classification also corresponds to these classification in this form, but that is not important. Moving on to some miscellaneous signs that are seen in the pulmonary hydradenosis. These are just the name signs and we don't need to get into the detail of these. So these include double arc sign, water lily sign, meniscus sign, water snake sign, crescent sign and moon sign that are seen on CT or USC. Now the treatment parts include surgical and medical. The mainstay is the surgical treatment. Medical treatment is indicated when patients are old and have a small asymptomatic densely calcified cyst. The drugs that are used are albendazole, mebendazole and praziquantel. The dose of albendazole that is used is 400 mg BD for 28 days. Some people also prefer pre-op steroids. The mainstay of treatment is surgery. Some people use pre-op steroids. The anesthetists like to keep with themselves epinephrine and steroids in case of anaphylactic reaction. The options of surgeries are paired, that is described later. Next is pericystectomy, that is the surgery of choice, basically the excision of cyst. Next is the radical surgeries that include surgeries like partial hepatectomy. Others can be marsupialization, cyst evacuation with omentoplasty, capitonage, and introflexion. We don't want to get into the details of these. Now, the pair. This is done for anatomically and surgically appropriate lesions. P stands for puncture of cyst. After puncturing, we aspirate its contents, then we inject the scolicidal agents, and then we re-aspirate the contents, and this process is repeated again and again. Now, the scolicidal agents, there may be several scolicidal agents. First, that is hypertonic saline 20%. Second is 0.5% cetrimide with 0.05% chlorhexidine solution. Third is absolute alcohol. And fourth is 100% 10% povidone iodine. Side effects include hypernatremia for hypertonic saline, acidosis for cetrimide, and cholangitis for absolute alcohol. Formalin and silver nitrate are never used. Now, the contraindications of pair. Whenever there is an inaccessible or hazardous location of the cyst, either the cyst is superficially located. Whenever the cyst is present in lungs and brain, we never do this. When there are multiple septations, either the cyst is communicating with the biliary tree. When there is a dead and inactive cyst. These are the intraoperative findings of the cyst, clear water filled fluid cyst. Thank you so much. If you like my videos, please like, share, and subscribe it on YouTube. Thank you.